The observation deck hummed with the quiet efficiency of 100 recording devices, all pointed at the human training facility below. I, quaternary scholar Vecht of the Meridian Collective, had been stationed on this orbital platform for 6 cycles now, documenting human military behavior for the Grand Archive. What I had witnessed defied every tactical principle we had established over 3,000 years of interstellar warfare. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I was about to learn. Scholar Vecht? The voice belonged to Junior Analyst Prin, one of my research assistants. Her chromatic scales flickered amber with uncertainty. The human instructor has agreed to your interview request. I straightened my sensory stalks. Finally, after weeks of formal requests and diplomatic channels, I would speak directly with someone who trained these bizarre warriors. The human who entered my observation chamber was not what I expected. Most human soldiers I had documented were young, vibrant, crackling with barely contained energy. This one, this instructor, moved with a deliberate calm that immediately set my threat assessment organs tingling. His identification badge read, Marcus Webb, Senior Combat Training Specialist. His face bore the scars that humans seem to collect like medals. One eye was slightly milky, suggesting old damage. Gray streaked through his dark hair. But those eyes, those disturbingly focused eyes, missed nothing as they scanned my chamber. Scholar Vecht. His voice was rough, like stone grinding against stone. You wanted to understand human combat doctrine? Indeed. I gestured with 3 of my appendages toward the observation window. Below, human trainees ran through what they called an obstacle course, laughing, shouting, competing with savage joy. Your species approaches warfare with an enthusiasm that borders on the pathological. My preliminary reports suggest humans actually enjoy combat. Is this assessment accurate? Marcus Webb did not answer immediately. Instead, he moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back, watching his students. A female trainee had just fallen from a climbing wall, landing hard on the padded surface below. She was laughing, actually laughing, as she picked herself up and immediately started climbing again. Enjoy is the wrong word, Webb finally said. But you are not entirely wrong either. Please elaborate. I activated my primary recording matrix. Webb turned to face me fully. Scholar, what does your species feel when faced with mortal danger? Fear. Appropriate tactical fear. It triggers our survival protocols, our retreat calculations, our preservation instincts. Exactly. Something that might have been a smile touched the corner of Webb's mouth, but it held no warmth. You feel fear. We feel fear too. Every human does. But somewhere in our evolutionary path, something got wired differently. Fear does not shut us down. It wakes us up. I felt my minor hearts skip in their rhythm. Wakes you up? You asked why humans smile in battle. Webb walked closer to me, and I had to resist the urge to step back. There was nothing threatening in his posture, nothing aggressive, yet every instinct screamed that I was in the presence of a predator. It is because combat, real combat, is when we become most alive, most present, most ourselves. He paused, choosing his words carefully. For most of human history, we were both predator and prey. We hunted, and we were hunted. That dual nature is still in us, in every cell, every nerve. When the shooting starts, when the blood pounds, when death breathes down our necks, something ancient clicks on inside us. The fear is still there, scholar. But it is fuel now. It is permission. Permission for what? My translator struggled with the nuance of his tone. Permission to be what we really are. Webb returned to the window. Your report mentioned enthusiasm. That trainee who fell, who laughed. She was not happy about falling. She was happy about getting to try again, about testing herself, about pushing past the failure. Humans do not love violence, scholar. We love the challenge. We love the test. And battle, survival, combat. These are the ultimate tests. Below, an alarm sounded. The trainees immediately shifted from their obstacle course to tactical formation. Their playful energy vanished, replaced by sharp, coordinated movement. Yet I noticed something. They were still smiling. Not the wide grins from before, but small, tight expressions that my database identified as anticipation. Your doctrine recommends smiling during combat engagements, I said, pulling up my notes. Every human military manual includes this. Why would you codify a facial expression? Webb actually chuckled at that, a dry sound. Because it works on multiple levels. First, smiling tricks your own brain. Human neurology responds to facial expressions. Force a smile, even in terror, and your brain releases chemicals that reduce stress, increase focus. Second, it is psychological warfare. An enemy who sees you smiling while they are shooting at you? That breaks something in their mind. They cannot process it. They expect fear. They expect rage. They do not expect joy. But surely it cannot be actual joy. Can it not? Webb's damaged eye caught the light strangely. Scholar, let me tell you about my first real combat. Not training, not simulation. Real bullets, real blood, real chance of dying. He settled into a chair, though his posture remained alert. I was 22 standard years old. My unit was pinned down in an urban zone on a colony world. The enemy had superior numbers, superior position, and were systematically eliminating my squad. My best friend died 3 meters from me, took a plasma round straight through his chest. I watched the life go out of his eyes. Webb's voice remained steady, factual, but I detected the slight change in his breathing pattern. In that moment, I had a choice. Shut down, freeze up, let the terror win, or push through it. And scholar, I will tell you what happened. I smiled. Not because I was happy, not because I was insane, but because something clicked over inside me. The fear was still there, massive and overwhelming, but it was like flipping a switch. The fear became clarity. Every sound became sharper. Every movement became precise. Time did not slow down, exactly, but my perception of it changed. I could see trajectories before weapons fired. I could predict movements before they happened. Adrenaline response, I interjected. We have documented this in multiple species. No, Webb shook his head firmly. Not just adrenaline. That is part of it, yes. But this is something more. Humans have been fighting for our entire existence. Fighting predators, fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting everything that tried to kill us. And we kept going, kept pushing, kept refusing to lie down and die. That refusal is in our DNA now. That stubbornness, that absolute rejection of surrender. He stood again, pacing. Your species, the Meridians, you have impressive tactical systems. Your battle computers can calculate optimal strategies in microseconds. Your soldiers follow orders with perfect precision. On paper, you should dominate any conflict. Yet human forces consistently outperform projections, I admitted. It was the core mystery that had driven my research. Because you fight with your heads, we fight with our hearts. Webb tapped his chest. No, scratch that. Too poetic. We fight with our whole being. Mind, body, emotion, instinct, all of it aligned in a single direction. Survive, win, protect. When a human soldier smiles in battle, it is not madness. It is acceptance. We accept the danger. We accept the fear. We accept that we might die. And then we decide to fight anyway, with everything we have, holding nothing back. A new group of trainees entered the facility below. These ones looked younger, newer. I watched as the veterans immediately began hazing them, not cruelly, but with rough affection. Pushing, testing, laughing. Your training methodology emphasizes stress inoculation, I said, reading from my notes. You deliberately create horrible conditions for trainees. Sleep deprivation, physical exhaustion, impossible scenarios. Why? Because real combat is horrible, Webb said simply. If you only train in comfort, you break the first time things get hard. We train harder than we fight, so that when the actual battle comes, it is almost familiar, almost manageable. The smile, the laugh, these are tools we build in training. When everything is falling apart, when the mission is failing, when your friends are dying, you need something to hold on to, something to keep you functional. For us, that something is the ability to find grim humor in the darkness, to smile at death and say, "Not today." I made rapid notes, my appendages dancing across my input device. This explains individual psychology, but your units display collective behavior that suggests shared emotional states. How is this achieved? Webb's expression softened slightly. Bonding. Humans form pack bonds, tribal connections. When you train together, suffer together, laugh together, you build something stronger than tactical coordination. You build trust. And when you trust your unit absolutely, when you would die for them and know they would die for you, you fight differently. You take risks you would never take alone. You push harder because you know they are pushing too. You smile because they are smiling, and their courage feeds yours. A loud crash echoed from below. One of the new trainees had collapsed during a weighted run. Immediately, 3 others broke formation to help, hauling their struggling comrade forward. The instructor below was yelling, but not at the helpers. He was yelling encouragement. Your training incorporates failure, I observed. Deliberate, structured failure. Another species would see this as wasteful. Failure is the best teacher. Webb watched the scene below with evident approval. You fail in training, you learn. You fail in combat, you die. So we fail constantly in training. We push people past their breaking points, let them break, then teach them how to rebuild themselves stronger. Every human you see down there has failed dozens of times, hundreds of times. They have been afraid. They have wanted to quit. Many did quit. The ones who remain, they learned that failure is not fatal, that fear is not disabling, that they can be broken and still get up. That lesson, that core resilience, is why humans smile in battle. Because we have already survived our worst moments. We have already been broken and reformed. Combat is just one more test. I was beginning to understand, though the understanding filled me with an emotion I could not quite name. Not quite fear, not quite respect. Something between. The smile is defiance, I said slowly. Defiance of fear. Defiance of death. Defiance of the enemy. Yes, Webb nodded, but also affirmation. We are alive, we are fighting. We choose this. Every human who has ever stood in battle, from ancient warriors with stone weapons to modern soldiers with plasma rifles, they all made the same choice: to stand, to fight, to refuse to yield. The smile says, I am here, I am present, I am ready. You may kill me, but you will not break me. You will not make me run. You will not take my humanity. He turned to face me directly. Scholar Vecht, you want to understand human combat effectiveness. It is not our weapons. It is not our tactics. Those help, certainly. But the real weapon is this. He tapped his temple. The ability to take everything terrible about combat, the fear, the pain, the loss, and alchemize it into fuel. We do not ignore our emotions. We weaponize them. We take the horror and transmute it into determination. We take the grief and forge it into purpose. And yes, we smile. Because smiling is armor against despair. Smiling is the ultimate defiance. Smiling says, "You have not beaten me yet." Below, the collapsed trainee was back on their feet, supported by their squad mates. They were all moving forward together now, slower, but together. And they were smiling, exhausted, hurting, probably questioning every life choice that brought them here, but smiling. "Your reports mentioned something else," Webb said quietly, "about human soldiers maintaining combat effectiveness even after sustaining casualties that would cause other species to retreat or surrender." "Yes," I pulled up the relevant files. Meridian tactical doctrine calls for withdrawal when casualties exceed 15% of unit strength. Human units have been documented continuing offensive operations with 70% casualties. This should be impossible. The psychological trauma alone should be incapacitating. Webb was silent for a long moment. 26 years ago, he began, his voice different now, quieter. My unit was defending a colony station against raiders. Military discipline had collapsed among the attackers. They were killing civilians, women, children. We were outnumbered 4-1. Command ordered us to evacuate, to preserve our forces for a counterattack. We refused the order. I felt my sensory stalks retract slightly. We held that station for 16 hours. Of my 40-person unit, 37 died. I survived with 2 others, both so badly wounded they never saw combat again. We held because leaving meant those civilians died. And yes, scholar, we smiled. We smiled because rage and grief would have made us sloppy. We smiled because we needed every scrap of psychological armor we could find. We smiled because the alternative was to break down, and breaking down meant failure, and failure meant dead children. His voice remained steady, but I noticed his hands were clenched. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found 3 humans, soaked in blood, surrounded by dead raiders, still holding our positions, still alive, still fighting, and yes, still smiling. Because that is what humans do. We find the thing worth protecting, worth fighting for, and we refuse to stop until we win or we die. There is no middle ground, no calculated acceptable loss, no retreat based on casualty percentages. If the mission matters, if lives are on the line, we fight until it is done. "This is not sustainable," I protested. "This level of psychological and physical commitment, it must damage your soldiers permanently." "It does." Webb met my gaze. "Every human who sees real combat is changed. Many are damaged. We have entire medical specialties dedicated to treating combat trauma. But here is what you do not understand. We consider it worth it, because the alternative is to be a species that runs, that calculates survival over duty, that values individual preservation over collective protection. And we tried that, early in our history. We had soldiers who fought only for pay, only for personal gain. They were not effective. The truly dangerous human, the truly effective warrior, is the one who fights for something bigger than themselves, for their squad, for their people, for an ideal. That is when humans become unstoppable. That is when we smile in the face of death. The training session below was ending. The trainees gathered in formation, exhausted but energized. Their instructor was speaking, though I could not hear the words from this height. Whatever he said made them laugh, loud and genuine. They laugh because they survived today's training, Webb said, following my gaze. Tomorrow will be harder. Some of them will quit. Some will fail. But the ones who make it through, who choose every day to push past their limits, they will become something special. They will become humans who smile in battle. And that smile will terrify their enemies more than any weapon ever could. I deactivated my recording matrix, my processing clusters overwhelmed with data. Thank you, Instructor Webb. You have provided invaluable insight. Scholar? Webb paused at the chamber exit. One more thing. You asked if humans enjoy combat. The answer is no. We do not enjoy killing. We do not enjoy death. We do not enjoy pain. But we do enjoy being tested. We enjoy rising to challenges. We enjoy becoming more than we thought we could be. Combat provides that opportunity in its most extreme form. So we smile. Not in joy at violence, but in fierce satisfaction at meeting the ultimate test and refusing to break. Remember that distinction. It matters. He left. I remained at the observation window, watching the humans below as they dispersed, already joking about tomorrow's training, already preparing for the next test. And I finally understood why the Meridian battle computers consistently underestimated human forces. Because we calculated based on logic, on preservation, on acceptable losses. Humans operated on a completely different paradigm. They smiled in battle because battle was where they proved they were alive, where they demonstrated their absolute refusal to surrender to fear or death or impossible odds. They smiled because smiling was the last, best weapon against the darkness. And nothing in the galaxy was more terrifying than a species that could stare into the abyss and smile back. 3 months had passed since my interview with Instructor Webb, and I had convinced the Meridian High Command to approve my continued research. What I thought I understood from that single conversation proved to be merely the surface of something far more complex and far more unsettling. Today, I was being granted unprecedented access. A human combat unit, the 63rd Expeditionary Force, had agreed to embed me with them during live operations against Krillian pirates who had been raiding border settlements. Real combat, real danger, real opportunity to witness the phenomenon Webb described. The transport ship rattled as we dropped through the atmosphere of Outpost Garrison 7. Around me sat 12 humans, checking weapons, reviewing tactical displays, and engaging in what I had learned to recognize as pre-combat ritual behavior. They were joking, actually joking about the upcoming fight. 10 credits says Kowalski freezes up again, said a massive human named Torres, his scarred hands working over his rifle with practiced ease. That was one time, protested a younger soldier, presumably Kowalski. I was calibrating my targeting system. You were staring at a bug on your visor for 30 seconds while we got shot at, countered a female soldier named Okoye. Her smile was sharp, predatory. Admit it, you thought it was enemy contact. The squad erupted in laughter. I noticed their squad leader, a compact woman named Lieutenant Reeves, watching the exchange with apparent approval. This baffled me. Mockery before combat should reduce unit cohesion. Scholar Vecht, Reeves addressed me directly. You look confused. First time seeing pre-combat prep? I do not understand the purpose of this ridicule of squad members before a dangerous operation. It is not ridicule. Reeves checked her sidearm, movements fluid and automatic. It is pressure release. Fear builds if you let it sit. Better to lance it with humor. Torres gives Kowalski grief. Kowalski fires back. Everyone laughs. and suddenly the tension drops. We go into the fight loose instead of tight. Loose keeps you alive. Tight gets you killed. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Warning lights flickered red. "Incoming fire!" The pilot's voice crackled through the comm system. "Multiple contacts. Surface-to-air missiles tracking." I felt my emergency evacuation instincts trigger immediately. My species' response to anti-aircraft fire was immediate evasive action and abort procedures. The humans around me simply tightened their harnesses and kept talking. "Pilot's good," Torres said conversationally as the ship jinked hard left. "That was a clean dodge." 5 credits says we take at least 1 hit before landing, Okoye offered. "You are betting on being shot?" I could not keep the horror from my voice. Kowalski grinned at me. "Scholar, we are already committed. Ship is not turning around, so we can either sit here scared or we can make it interesting. I will take that bet, Okoye. No hits before landing." An explosion rocked the ship. Alarms screamed. I watched in absolute disbelief as Kowalski calmly transferred credits to Okoye's account while we plummeted toward the surface, trailing smoke. "Good call," Kowalski said to her. "Though technically we are not landed yet, so if we explode in the air, the bet is void." "Fine print always gets you," Okoye replied, bracing as the pilot fought for control. We hit the ground hard but intact. The rear ramp dropped instantly, revealing a combat zone. Weapons fire stitched across the landing pad. 3 human soldiers from another unit lay, motionless near a bunker entrance. The surviving defenders were pinned down, returning fire sporadically. Lieutenant Reeves assessed the situation in perhaps 2 seconds. "Torres, Okoye, suppressing fire on that eastern emplacement. Kowalski, you are with me. We are going for the wounded. Rest of you, standard breach formation. We need that bunker entrance clear. Move." They moved. Not frantically, not with panic, but with frightening speed and precision. Torres and Okoye immediately began laying down fire that forced the Krillian pirates to cover. Their rifles barked in steady rhythm, each shot deliberate. And they were smiling. Not laughing now, not joking, but wearing those small, tight smiles Webb had described. Reeves and Kowalski sprinted across open ground toward the fallen soldiers. Plasma bolts carved the air around them. Kowalski took a round to his shoulder plate, the impact spinning him halfway around. He kept running. When they reached the wounded, Kowalski dropped to provide cover while Reeves checked vitals. "2 still breathing," she shouted. "Need immediate evac." I watched from the dubious safety of the transport's hull as the rest of the squad advanced on the bunker entrance. 3 Krillian pirates emerged, weapons raised. The lead human, a soldier named Park, shot the first pirate, shoulder-checked the second into the wall, and used the stunned alien as a shield while shooting the third. The whole sequence took perhaps 4 seconds. Park was grinning, actual visible teeth showing. The pirates broke, abandoned their positions, and retreated deeper into the facility. The human squad did not pursue immediately. Instead, they secured the entrance, established a perimeter, and got the wounded aboard the transport for medical treatment. Only then did Reeves give the order to advance. "Light formation, they know we are here. Kowalski, how is that shoulder?" "Plate took it, Lieutenant. Barely felt it." Kowalski rolled his shoulder experimentally. The armor was scorched and cracked, but intact. "Good for another round." "You get hit again, you buy drinks for a week," Torres said. "Deal, but same applies to you." They were making bets again, while advancing into a hostile facility, where people were actively trying to kill them. I followed, my recording equipment capturing everything, my mind struggling to process what I was witnessing. We moved through corridors slick with coolant leaks and scorched by weapons fire. Twice we encountered resistance. Twice the humans eliminated the threats with brutal efficiency. And that whole time, those smiles never wavered. We found the pirates' command center in the facility's core. Approximately 20 hostiles dug in behind barricades with multiple firing positions and clear sight lines, a nightmare scenario for assault forces. Reeves studied the tactical display for perhaps 30 seconds. Okoye, you still carrying those flash charges? 4 of them. Torres, how is your throwing arm? Better than yours, Lieutenant. Torres's smile widened. We will see about that. Park, Kowalski, when the fireworks start, you go left. Everyone else, right side. Suppressing fire on my mark, charges on the 2 count, breach on the flash. Questions? No one questioned. They simply moved into position. I noticed their breathing had changed, deeper, more controlled. Their movements became even more precise. And those smiles, those terrible, knowing smiles, they intensified. Mark! Weapons fire erupted. The noise was overwhelming, deafening. Torres and Reeves threw their charges in perfect arcs. The flash grenades detonated in sequence, brilliant white light strobing through the command center. Before the light faded, the humans were moving. What happened next defied my ability to adequately describe. The humans flowed through the chaos like water through cracks, each movement economical, purposeful, lethal. They shot targets I could barely identify through the smoke and flash residue. They moved as one organism, covering each other, calling targets, coordinating without apparent effort. A Krillian pirate emerged from cover directly in front of me, weapon raised. I froze. Every survival instinct I possessed locked my limbs in place. The pirate's weapon tracked toward my head. Torres hit the pirate from the side like a projectile, bearing both of them to the ground. They struggled. The pirate was larger, stronger. Torres was smiling. He got a hand on his combat knife and buried it in the pirate's throat. Rose checked me over. You good, Scholar? I could not speak. He had just killed someone to save me, had moved without hesitation into mortal danger on behalf of a non-combatant alien researcher, and he was asking if I was acceptable. Scholar! Torres gripped my shoulder, his blood-spattered face showing concern. You in shock? Talk to me. I am. Why did you could have let him shoot you? Torres actually laughed. Not how this works. You are with us. We protect you. Simple as that. Now stay close. Still have hostiles in here. The fight ended 90 seconds later. Every pirate in the command center was dead or unconscious. The human squad had sustained multiple minor injuries, but no fatalities. They immediately began securing the facility, collecting intelligence, treating their wounded. And they were still smiling. Reeves approached me as her squad worked. Scholar Vecht, you have data for your report? Yes, but Lieutenant, I do not understand. You could have died. All of you. This assault had perhaps a 40% success probability. You treated it like a training exercise. 60% probability, Reeves corrected, wiping blood from her face. And we did not treat it like training. We treated it like the job. This is what we do, Scholar. We go where we are needed. We accomplish the mission. We bring everyone home if we can. Today, we could. That is a good day. But the smiling, even when that pirate nearly killed me, even when you were outnumbered, you all kept smiling. How? Reeves looked at her squad, scattered around the command center, joking with each other even while binding wounds and checking equipment. Something like pride crossed her features. Because, scholar, this is who we are when everything is on the line. Not despite the danger, not ignoring the fear, but because of it. We smile because we refuse to let the fear win. We smile because we trust each other absolutely. We smile because we are alive, we are together, and we are doing something that matters. Those settlers the pirates were raiding? They are safe now. Those wounded soldiers we evacuated? They will live because we got them out. That is worth smiling about. She paused, considering her words. Webb told you about the psychology, the training, the doctrine. That is all true. But there is another layer. When you stand with people who would die for you, who you would die for, when you are part of something bigger than yourself, fighting for something that matters, that is when being human means something profound. We smile because in these moments, we are fully alive, fully present, fully committed. And there is a fierce joy in that, scholar. Not in the violence, not in the killing, but in the absolute commitment to something greater than our own survival. Torres joined us, favoring his left leg slightly. Lieutenant, facility is secure. We found their prisoner holding area. 23 civilians alive, 12 wounded but stable. Medical teams are inbound. Reeves nodded, then looked at me. That, scholar. That is why we smile. 23 people get to go home. That is worth every risk we took. The evacuation took 3 hours. I watched the humans work with relentless efficiency, treating wounded civilians and pirates alike, securing evidence, preparing the facility for occupation by follow-up forces. They maintained their alertness, their professionalism, their deadly competence. And they kept smiling. On the transport back to orbit, exhausted, injured, coming down from the combat high, they still managed to joke and laugh. Okoye was giving Kowalski grief for getting shot, despite his bet. Park was complaining about the quality of the pirates' weapons. Torres was already planning what he would spend his combat bonus on. Lieutenant Reeves sat next to me, cleaning her rifle with automatic motions. Scholar, you came here to understand why humans smile in battle. Did you find your answer? I considered the question carefully, reviewing hours of recordings, processing everything I had witnessed. I found many answers, I said slowly. The smiling serves psychological functions, tactical purposes, social bonding mechanisms, but I believe the core truth is simpler and more profound. Humans smile in battle because you have made a choice, at a fundamental level, to meet fear and death with defiance and purpose. You have decided that the cause, the mission, the people you protect, these things matter more than personal safety. And having made that choice, you embrace it fully. The smile is the visible manifestation of that commitment. Reeves nodded slowly. That is, actually, a pretty good analysis. Though you missed one thing. What did I miss? She smiled. That same small, knowing smile I had seen throughout the combat operation. We also smile because, if we are going to die, we might as well die doing something incredible. Humans do not fear death, scholar. We fear meaningless death. Dying in bed, old and forgotten? That terrifies us. Dying while saving 23 innocent people? While protecting our squad? While accomplishing the impossible? That is the good death. That is the death worth dying. And if you are going to face that possibility, you might as well smile about it. The transport broke atmosphere, stars becoming visible through the viewports. Kowalski started singing, some human battle song I did not recognize. Others joined in. Their voices were rough, off-key, utterly sincere. I understood, finally, what made humans so effective in combat. It was not superior technology or tactics. It was not physical advantages or better training. It was this absolute refusal to surrender to fear, this transformation of terror into fuel, this fierce commitment to something beyond themselves. They had weaponized hope itself, had turned the very things that should break them into the foundations of their strength. The Krillian pirates had superior numbers, superior positions, home territory advantage. On paper, they should have won. But they faced humans. Humans who smiled while being shot at. Humans who made jokes while bleeding. Humans who would charge into certain death for people they had never met. How could anyone fight that? How could any enemy break something that refused to acknowledge breaking as an option? Reeves was watching me, reading my expression with that disturbing human intuition. You are going to recommend that the Meridian Collective avoid military conflicts with human forces, are you not? Yes. Emphatically, yes. Your species fights with a psychological framework that renders standard tactical calculations irrelevant. You do not retreat when you should. You do not surrender when it becomes logical. You escalate when de-escalation is the rational choice, and you do all of this while smiling. It is frankly terrifying. Reeves laughed, genuine and warm. Good. Let that be the report, scholar. Humans smile in battle, and that should scare you. We smile because we have already accepted the worst, already decided we are willing to pay any price, already committed to fighting until we win or we die. And once someone has made that choice, has truly made it, they become unstoppable. Not invincible, we die easily enough, but unstoppable. Because you cannot threaten someone with something they have already accepted. The transport docked with the orbital station. The squad gathered their equipment, preparing to disembark. They moved with the easy camaraderie of people who had faced death together and survived. Tomorrow, they would do it again, and the day after that, until they finally fell, or until they grew too old to fight. They would keep going into danger, keep smiling, keep refusing to break. Torres paused at the airlock, turning back to me. Scholar Vecht, you want to really understand humans? Come back, embed with us again. See more operations, but I warn you, once you understand us, you cannot unknow it, cannot unsee it. We are the species that looked at the universe, at all its dangers and horrors and impossible odds, and we smiled. Then we went out and conquered it anyway. That knowledge, that understanding, it will change how you see everything. He was right. It already had. As I compiled my final report for the Meridian High Command, I included detailed tactical assessments, psychological profiles, combat effectiveness metrics. But I ended with a simple warning. Humans smile in battle because they have already won the only fight that truly matters. The fight against their own fear, against their own limitations, against the voice that says surrender, that says flee, that says you cannot do this. They smile because they have made themselves into something more than biology and survival instinct. They smile because they have chosen to be heroes, even when heroism means dying hard in the dark places of the galaxy. And any species that fights them must understand, you are not fighting their weapons or their ships or their tactics. You are fighting their absolute refusal to lose, their commitment to each other, their weaponized hope, their defiant joy in the face of annihilation. You are fighting people who smile when they should scream. You are fighting humans, and that should terrify you more than any weapon ever could. Because when humans smile in battle, it means they have already decided the outcome. It means they have already committed everything. It means they will not stop, will not surrender, will not break, It means they are awake, and nothing in this galaxy is more dangerous than a human who is truly, fully awake.